Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am building something from Beetlejuice.
Hi, how are you?
Now, I know that the newest movie just released not too long ago, and I wanted to make something from it. I've been eyeballing like a sandworm or one of those weird sculptures that they have in the original, and as I was looking for inspiration, I saw it. The shrunken head known as Harry the Hunter in the original Beetlejuice is what I'm going to make. So today we are going to make a shrunken head from the original Beetlejuice out of foam and maybe a mullet. Let's get to building. So the screenshots that I found were primarily 3D prints for references. I tried going back to the original movie shots and they were just a lot of low lit, kind of blurry images, so not really good to go off of. So between this model and another picture you'll see here in a minute, I just kind of guessed on a lot of it. I started the build very similar to how I started my toe build from last week. I cut up some 48mm chunks and contact cemented them together to make a block big enough to carve into. I need to try and find some more of those yoga blocks because those would be perfect for this type of carving. You could get very precise with this and trace a front view and a side view off of a printout, but I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and shoot from the hip. If I carve off too much, I can just glue bits back onto the chunk. I cut the front view, then the profile view, and then I bridge the gap between the two to get it closer to the head shape. I probably made mine a little too big, which is the normal case for most of my builds, but when you're a fairly large person, you tend to oversize things because you're basing it off of yourself and not what it should actually be. Make sure to use a sharp box cutter. Foam dulls blades super fast within just a couple of pulls, so either invest in a sharpener or stock up on blades. I kind of do a mix of both depending on how rushed I am or lazy I feel. With a majority of the form starting to look closer to my reference image, it's time to start sanding it to its final look. This is generally a two-step process for me and takes a whole lot longer than this short 4 times sped up video clip you see here. With a rotary tool and a sanding drum bit, I smooth over all the rough cuts. Then once I am happy with how it looks, I switch over to a stone bit on the rotary tool to smooth over all the sand marks left from the drum. kinda looks like a monkey face at this point, but I know there's always that part in my projects where I just want to trash it because it looks off. Now it's time to really accentuate the shrunken head part of this build and add tons of wrinkles. I do my best to follow the contours of the face, and just like in the previous stage, my initial pass is a sanding drum followed by a stone bit. Make sure to wear a respirator and work in a well ventilated area while sanding foam. You don't want to breathe in this dust. For me, it feels like I'm having a sinus infection, but instead of coughing up a normal color, it's whatever color foam I was carving. It's gross. So how I found a side view of the ears, I don't exactly remember, but I'm just gonna kind of carve it out of some 10mm foam and shape it. I wasn't really precious with the attempt to make it anatomically correct. I just got it within the ballpark of what ears should kind of look like. There's a lot of folds and various structures within your ear, so I gouged out what I could with the large bit I was using. I actually cut the protruding bump that covers the ear canal, which is called the tragus, out of some scrap pieces of the 10mm offcuts and glued that over the top of it. With all the wrinkles on the face, these seams are pretty well hidden once glued up and sanded. For the neck flap, I just heated up some more of that 10mm foam and pushed it over the glass dome for my back porch light. Yes, it makes another appearance. Never gonna get back on that light. I would assume this would make it easier to sit on the top of your head if you were to wear this as an actual cosplay. Once cooled, I sanded a flat area on the top and then super glued the rest of the head to it. Then I tapered the edge off with a sanding drum to make the skin flap look thinner, and I cut it jagged. You could use a number of things for the eyeball. Foam cat toys would be an awesome, quick way to do so, but I do not have any, so I'm using a 36mm EVA dowel and rounding over the ends to make mine. I cut angles into the edge and then just dome over the shape the best I can. Once I was satisfied with the look and the fit, I super glued it into place and then added some small strips of 2mm foam over the edges to make it look like it has at least a little bit of eyelids to it to set in the peepers. Here I am preemptively drilling holes for the cord to be sewn into his mouth. I chose a random router bit and plunged it into the foam. Initially I thought I was going to actually sew the twine into the holes, but later realized that the angles were too difficult to push through all the way across his mouth. Two coats of Plasti Dip. Follow that up with a layer of splotchy red spray paint as a base color. I'm not really sure what the approach is here for layering, but my thought was to give him a bluish purple tone around his mouth and eyes, and then the rest would kind of have that red and pink look. Then I would layer the skin colors on top of that, followed by maybe a brown wash or something to dirty it up. So I went through several coats of building up the colors for his skin tones to make it as unsettling as humanly possible. What is nice about doing it in this manner is that you can literally just keep adding paint until you reach the point that you like. I think I settled on a little more pink and bluish than the original, but I really like the color combo up close. So I tried to actually thread the holes and got a couple of holes in before I realized this is going to take me all night. There was a more simpler solution right in front of me. I could fill the holes with super glue and just cut the pieces a little larger to then cram in. With the aid of the back end of a paintbrush, I could wedge the twine into the hole, twist the brush once it started to set, and then pull the brush out. So that's what I did. I also added the same twine around his neck like in the reference image. For his hair, I did a little dive into some old Halloween costumes that I had in storage and found a black mullet. I cut off the back portion of the cheap wig and hot glued it onto the scalp of the shrunken head. I chose hot glue because super glue can bleach out synthetic hairs and furs, causing them to be white or yellowish. I found some black hot glue at the hobby store and thought this would be a perfect application and I wouldn't have to worry about little bits of glue showing through. The fencing wire that I used to hold the head while I was painting got shoved into the top of the head after the hair was on so that it would hold the ponytail up straight. I then tied the twine around the top of the wire so that it would stay in place. His eyes were a bit flat, so I decided to use a little UV resin over the top, just on his eyes. I hit it with the UV light and gave his peepers a much needed glossiness. And with that, this build is officially done. I hope you enjoyed this build, and I guess now I need to go back and rewatch the original so that I can watch this new movie that has just released. Hope you all have a great weekend. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out pretty cool. It's probably a little more pink and blue than it probably needs to be. I could have like dyed it down with a brown wash or something, but I really liked the coloration that I got on the skin. I thought it was pretty awesome and gruesome looking, kind of like a bruised, sun-dried type vibe to it, not too leathery and decaying at this point, nice and fresh. But yeah, maybe you'll try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to pull something from a childhood movie of yours that you were pretty into, especially the Saturday morning cartoon that they made after. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're gonna ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these, tell them, much props. Time to go put it on a shelf and creep some random person out as they walk through the house. Peace out. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining all these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.